Well, hello. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us live today. We are very pleased that you're with us at this afternoon time, or if you're on the West Coast this morning. We understand that many of our lives and work has changed given the global public health crisis and more recently our national and global and righteous outrage regarding systemic racism. We hope that you and your loved ones are healthy and safe during these historic times, and we stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters. My name is Maria Statsmani Marquez, and I serve as the Associate Director of Admissions for the MBA for Executives program, and I am joined by our fearless leader, Joanne Legler, our Director of Admissions. Our intention in the next 45 minutes is to provide you with a very high-level overview of the MBA for Executives at the Yale School of Management, while sharing variables to consider as you think about embarking on an MBA program. So thank you so much. And as we get started, let me just make sure I can access our next slide. So welcome to Yale. As you can see behind me, this is Sterling Library from the outside on a beautiful spring and summer day. And the photo that you're looking at now is a picture of the reading room in Sterling Library, which is centrally located on Yale's campus in New Haven, Connecticut. And it's really truly a symbol of knowledge and you know, the foundation of learning at this institution, which is one of the oldest in the United States. Yale is over 300 years old and acknowledges that Indigenous peoples and nations, including the Mohegan, the Mashantucket Pequot, the Eastern Pequot, the Chagacote, Golden Hill Paugussett, the Niantic, and the Quinnipiac and other Algonquian-speaking peoples have stewarded through generations the lands and waterways of what is now the state of Connecticut. So we honor and respect the enduring relationship that exists between these peoples and nations and this land. Since then, Yale has built a legacy in educating leaders across, across government, public and private sectors, to include countless political leaders, Supreme Court justices, Nobel Peace Prize winners, and world-renowned experts, including all and across all sectors. So we're very proud of our tradition here, and we certainly are excited to share more with you about it. And while Yale is quite old, the School of Management is actually quite new. So our hope today in the next 45 minutes is to share more about not only the School of Management, but also to provide you with an overview of our program through this process. We want to share with you, different variables that you can consider and that most people do, and so this might help you in creating a checklist. We'll definitely provide some additional time at the end to go through a question and answer session, and hopefully provide you some very clear next steps as you move forward. So I'd love to, at this point, hand it off to Joanne to speak to one very important and vital piece of our program.
Thank you, Maria. Hi, everyone. My name is Joanne Legler, the Director of Admissions for the MBA program at the Yale School of Management. I'm thrilled to be here with you today, and I thank you for taking the time out of what is undoubtedly not only a busy day, but outside the norm type of day. Perhaps you're still working from home. Perhaps you are schooling and caring for others, children and partners and spouses, pets. So we thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we look forward to letting this be the very first introduction that you might have about our program and taking it from here over the next several months. So hopefully this great overview was just the first start into a long relationship with us and admissions as we seek to tell you even more about our school over the next several weeks and months. Educating leaders for business and society, that is the mission of the Yale School of Management. That's our founding mission. So I think any discussion about Yale SOM always has to include this mission. Leaders who have a strong sense of purpose, leaders who have the ability to think broadly about big problems that business leaders are facing today and that they will face in the future. The mission pretty much drives everything that we do here. At SOM, the mission matters. Our students really look to expand their personal, their professional capacity through this program. And their aim, as is ours for them, is to create lasting change and impact within their teams, organizations, communities, even at the highest levels of national and even global government policy. We think the most successful leaders will really have to address challenges that just can't be solved by business alone, but also can't be solved without the tools of business that you gain in an MBA program like ours. So our mission, I mean, for me personally, it motivates our students and our faculty, but me too, and I'm sure Maria would agree with that. For us, it really provides strategic guidance about who we are, what we should do, and it really informs what we do not only on a really big level, but also on a daily basis for those of us that think about issues of how we consider educating our students. So that's a great introduction, I think, to Yale SOM, and then I think the next piece is to talk about our community. The mission is extraordinarily serious for us. If you ask anybody in the building what our school mission is, they'll know what it is. We're really lucky to have a community of students and alumni working in private sector, public sector, nonprofit sector, people who are really making a difference in their organizations. We could use a lot of adjectives to describe our students and our alumni, but the ones that come to mind, especially as it relates to our last discussion on the mission, are that our students are very engaged. They are not looking for a transactional experience to guide their MBA program. So these are folks who are looking for an opportunity to be very much engaged with the institution, with each other. They are inspired, but I also find them inspiring. They certainly inspire what I do every day. Again, mission driven. They are passionate. They are interested in solving these complex issues at the nexus of business and society. They're also generous. They are inclusive. They are people who want to learn from one another. They know they don't have all the right answers, and they're eager to work with this community to make them better leaders. But they do see themselves just as that, as leaders. And we encourage them on that journey to be the very best that they can be as leaders in their communities, in their organizations, and in their teams. That's the community on purpose. We are definitely intentional about the community that we're building here at SOM. So perhaps this is the thing you've decided to do, and that's not a small thing to think about. And so we're eager to dive into what it means to really think about doing an MBA program and specifically an MBA program. I think part of our role in admissions, and Maria I'm sure agrees with this, is that it is our job to be excellent stewards of the School of Management, but specifically for this MBA program. So in doing that, over the years, we have worked with what feels at this point like thousands of students, executives, senior leaders, just like yourselves, who are inspired to start on this really transformational journey. So in that, we've found that there are some considerations that we think are really important to think very broadly about to make that initial aspiration a reality. So here's the things that we're going to talk a lot about today. Alignment for an MBA program versus maybe a part-time program or other master's degree program. Commute to campus, it sounds like a small thing, but when we factor in how busy we are, getting to and from campus for an on-campus in-person program is definitely something to think about. The calendar, the format, what does it mean to be on campus every other weekend? What does it mean to have homework in the weeks in between? Preparedness, that's on every level, and it's really sort of school agnostic. We want you to think about what it means to be back in school, especially if it's been a minute since the last time you sat in a classroom with a group of peers. Funding an MBA and any MBA program, any graduate program is not a small thing. When we talk about who's going to pay for this and how we're going to think about how this might impact our current financial situation, the ROI, we've got lots of great advice for you there. And then finally, things to consider: stakeholder approval. Who is in your corner, who's on your team that's going to get you through this very rigorous yet incredibly rewarding journey. So that's a good overview of what we're going to talk about and how we're going to sort of interweave all of these considerations with the specifics on our MBA program. And so that's sort of our goal for today. So you've decided to do this, so congratulations. You're here with us today. It means at some point you've thought, okay, I'm ready to take the next step. Who are we looking for? And I think for MBA programs, we're probably not alone in the profile that we're seeking. We are looking for experienced leaders. For us, that means folks who are about mid-career, those with both management and leadership experience to date, where the MBA in the executive format specifically makes the most sense. We do require a minimum of 5 years of work experience, and on average, our students have about 13 years of work experience. For career evolution, we really want to see that you are on a trajectory that signals some meaningful leadership potential or leadership experience. You're taking on responsibilities in your organization, you're building that business acumen, you're in line for opportunities, and your wish now is to be prepared for whatever comes next. And then finally, moving forward in your career, accelerating access to resources, wanting to grow in your capacity, impact on a large scale, and have the opportunity to connect to resources and opportunity that will ensure that that growth and that impact is going to be meaningful. So on a broad level, that's certainly who we're looking for at SOM, but I would hazard a guess that most of our colleagues in other programs are looking for these types of profiles as well. And that's a really key difference, I think, between an MBA program and perhaps a full-time program where students might be a little bit earlier in their careers and have not yet had the opportunity for leadership that we expect from our students. All right, Maria, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about alignment and how alignment with not only the MBA program and the mission and values of the School of Management might make sense for you, but specifically, we teach this program in a really unique way. It is not necessarily a general management degree. We've chosen to take on opportunities for students to dive deeper in what we think are our very best or among the best areas of focus that Yale University has to offer. So the alignment needs to come on a big scale. When you drill down to how we've chosen to teach this program on a bit of a micro scale as well with our 3 areas of focus. So Maria, can you talk a little bit about those, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for diving into the alignment. It's such a critical piece for us to think about, this building of community on purpose, but also what does it mean to be of purpose? And I think that in embarking on designing our curriculum to have 25% of its curriculum focused on asset management, healthcare, and sustainability, we are very intentional about the type of curriculum that can have the impact for specific people across these 3 industries and actually across all sectors. So let me just share with you who is on the screen. Roger Ibbotson, who teaches our investor class, which is actually a part of the integrated core curriculum, which Joanne will speak to a bit later. But he's introducing the stock market game to our students here. And he's also somebody who helped to design the CFA for those who are financial advisors. So talk about asset management as an area of focus. It's really designed for those who have a very strong background in finance or investments, for those who want to use innovation and analytical skills to help to prepare for others for a strong financial future. I think that the students who are drawn to this program are really interested in seeking ways to be ethical around financial practices. They want to be good stewards of other capital, and they're really interested in adhering to the regulatory requirements and making sure that they are in line with all business ethics going forward. So broad subjects teach both theory and practice. So I will share with you a little bit about what the curriculum is, but won't go into it deeply. So many of these classes that you'll take are going to be theoretical. So the Future of Global Finance is one where you looked at disruptive technologies, thinking about AI and machine learning, and perhaps a more practical one might be investment management, where if you've already taken those courses, it will take you to a level deeper and richer through that practice. But many of our students, and just to share with you some profiles, we have folks who are coming from large institutional banks, also small private hedge funds, private equity, capital markets. We see often people coming from risk and compliance, and those who are deeply involved in mergers and acquisitions at the corporate level as well. Oftentimes we'll see people who are coming with a strong background in kind of the C-suite as a CFO, sometimes leading in those directions as well. But ultimately, the idea here is that you would have had to have had a solid practice and a demonstrated commitment within the field of finance for a number of years before applying to this program specifically. Joanne, would you like to add anything else there?
I couldn't possibly. You've done that so beautifully, Maria. I have nothing more to offer other than to point out that Will Getzman, who's in the top left corner there, is our faculty director and has been at Yale forever, educated through and through at Yale.
Wonderful, yeah. And I think he does, in investing alternate asset classes, he also speaks about art and does some research and has done with some of our students in the past, which is exciting. And this is a photo of one small breakout room in Evans Hall for the annual healthcare conference, which is student-led. So students from the Yale School of Public Health, School of Medicine, Yale School of Management, and the School of Nursing all come together to put on a over 500 person attended conference where they bring in thought leaders all across the healthcare industry. So population health is a big point of discussion, and especially given public health concerns and the disparities that we see. The healthcare annual conference actually took place online this year, so they were able to adjust and move that, as it was, I think it was held mid-April, so that was really nice to see. Start off where Joanne kicked off is about our faculty director, Dr. Howard Foreman. He is really the co-founder of the entire MBA program when it first started. It was initially designed for those who were practitioners in the healthcare space who were then embarking on more administrative or leadership roles within their organizations, and has really now broadened. So we see people from coming from big pharma, from small biotech companies, biopharma, those who are coming from the insurance side. We see profiles from, I want to say technology. So kind of like on the back end, people who are working with Epic systems and leading large teams with that digital transformation. We see many practitioners, whether you're a surgeon, midwife, physician's assistant, other nurses, nurse practitioners. So it's really a broad range of those who really get the most out of this type of curriculum. And we have included a new course this year, which is called Investing in Healthcare. And the reason this class is there is because it's relevant for the times. We see, given COVID and the nature of which the healthcare system is changing so rapidly, we need to better understand how people are investing and creating VCs and utilizing those modes of funding to better address some of the concerns that we have in our healthcare system. So I encourage you to learn more about this and learn more about some of the offerings and the leaders that have come from here. And this beautiful photo is from Croon Hall, which is located at the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies, which is now actually called the Yale School of the Environment. And they made that change specifically because they understand that the environment and that research is coming from across many industries. And so they wanted to really broaden the scope of the research practice and application that can be done at the school. So under the leadership of Todd Court, who is located top left here, this is really about working and looking forward so that companies are prepared to innovate through the changing technologies, the resources, the climate, and some of the markets. There is a heavy focus on environmental impact here and also this idea of sustainable finance. So we are also very much aligned with the Center for Business in the Environment at Yale, which is also called CBAE, where Dr. Court has a dual appointment, and this is really a center where students can engage not only from the School of Management, from the Yale School of the Environment, and really engage in problems that are going to solve some of these systemic environmental problems that we see today. And as we all are hearing about some of the shifts that have happened, you know, whether it's come to biodiversity or, you know, CO2 production, through some of the closures that we've had more globally, we know that there's more research to do and there's more opportunity here to really understand how organizations really can impact that change. So people that we see who come through this program and are very attracted to it are those who are directly connected to issues of sustainability within their organizations. So this could be at places that are at consumer goods and services, businesses. These are those who are in renewables or oil and gas and the energy sector. We also see people who work very much, very closely with supply chain and manufacturing, really across all industries. We've had students come from the airline or other transportation industries, fashion, and thinking about textile waste and how to be, you know, as, I guess, have the least amount of impact with natural resource use. So a very broad range of candidates. This is also one where, you know, it's really important that you have a strong not only personal passion for climate change and the environment, but your work is also demonstrating that commitment above and beyond, especially if you're not very closely in a role that says, you know, director of sustainability or in corporate social responsibility. But as long as you are serving your organization through creating this change, or you are at the precipice of creating that change for your organization, this is a really wonderfully designed program to help leaders really create that impact. And so I want to share a little bit more with you about who is a part of the class. So this is the class of 2021, which is entering their second year now, this July. And they make up 74 students altogether. Our class size is typically around that. But just to briefly share some of the demographics we have here, as you can see, our average age is really about 13 years of experience. So as Joanne mentioned earlier, these are people who have really gained some significant and meaningful leadership. They are really looking to continue to further their preparedness for further responsibilities and act decisively in times of crisis as well. 36% are women, 41% have advanced degrees. We have many nationalities and citizenships represented, and the average age is about 37. So just to share a couple of different profiles with you. So for example, somebody from asset management, Leon Dong, who we'll also have a profile updated on the website soon. So if you have an opportunity to check out our blogs, that will be coming up. He currently works at JP Morgan. He is directly linked to investment management. And he is about, I would say, 12 years of experience overall. And has decided to embark on this and will be joining the asset management class quite soon. He hails from New York. So just a quick trip to New Haven, which we'll talk about later. Krista Cass is also, she is a former Army veteran, and she's also a physician's assistant out of Massachusetts. She joins us for the healthcare component. And in sustainability, Sami Ghazi, who is the director of sustainability at PepsiCo, who was also very much involved with their former leadership there. So very excited to have all three in the class, and we're excited for them to get going in their second year. So, you know, this is a really brief introduction to the community. I think Joanne did such a wonderful job expressing more about who they are and you know, what the community feel is like. So moving forward just a bit, talk a little bit about how to get here. So I mentioned New Haven earlier. This is where we're located. And as I was talking about some of the profiles, you may have noticed that there are quite a few coming from the eastern seaboard, from Washington all the way up to Boston. About 70% of our students travel from that area. And then we have excellent transportation options. I want to be sure that I also share with you more about those students who travel internationally. We've had students who have come from as far away as Germany and Guatemala. This year we'll have 2 students coming from Alberta, and well, 1 from Alberta and 2 from Ontario. Others have joined us from Mexico, and of course we know that there are travel restrictions now, so it's a little bit different in light of the travel expectations for this year. Also, we have a number of students traveling from California, Texas, the Southwest, and all across the US. So this is just an opportunity to share a little bit about how to get here and what the commute might look like for you. Most students who travel, I would say, to here from kind of the eastern part, they'll usually come in on Friday morning. Those who are traveling in from DC usually will come in on Thursday evening, and of course those from further out travel to New Haven Thursday evening. But one of the things that we like to talk about here is that New Haven is such a beautiful town, and it's a very small walking community as well, with tons of wonderful restaurants. And if you haven't heard about the pizza, that's definitely something to get on some Reddit board about and read up on. We both have our favorites, and we recently heard that it changed. So if you haven't heard of Delegna, which is now Nolo, you might want to check that out. So in light of some of the recent changes, we feel very proud that our program was very much prepared for the transition from the on-campus program to online. For the past 3 years, we've been offering the extended classroom, which is really an opportunity to remote in tooth classes. We have state-of-the-art technology all throughout Evans Hall. So we have a couple of really large screens on the back of each of the classes so the professor can look directly at the students and students are looking directly at the professor. And this is actually a photo taken of Jen Kaiser, who teaches in the sustainability class on climate policy change. He's one of the deans at the School of Law. This is during our transition to all online through COVID. So you can see some of the students are on a screen on the back, but he's also looking at the screen in the back of the wall. So really interesting, very innovative. I'm glad that we were a little step ahead there. It did make the transition so much easier. It's available to you. You know, should you have trouble traveling or getting here, if there's an emergency or something comes up, there's a policy that we really only allow about 8 to 10 students to join in from online at any one time. And I think that really is more of a, it's a general policy. Most of our students really love to be in person on campus. And referring back to what Joanne said, they're very much engaged, and I think they want to really create those bonds that you can do so in person, which make, you know, moving to online or signing in remote on an off weekend much easier, because you're still really feeling like you're a part of the community and have already built those lasting relationships. So I'm going to go through these next few slides a little bit more quickly, but these are also very important aspects of thinking about, you know, what do you want the program format to look like? Will this fit for your work schedule? Is this the type of commuting that you want to do? So we have a 22-month program, which is primarily hosted on alternating weekends, but it really looks at taking about over 60 days out of the office. So classes are usually held on Fridays and Saturdays, some Thursdays in May, and then there are 4 weeks in residence. So for example, our students will be joining us for the start of their residence week in mid-July. You know, given COVID, we've made some changes to that, but likely for 2021, should everything go to plan, we will start with a 2-week in residence in July, and then after that, we kick off the every other schedule from August to May, and then in June of your first year, we will send you off on a global network week, which is a part of our global network for advanced management, which we're not highlighting here today, but if you are considering a global opportunity or global connection, certainly look at the Global Network for Advanced Management, which boasts 32 top business schools across, I believe, 29 countries at this point. Our program engages significantly with about 15 who also have MBA programs, and it really is an opportunity to connect globally. There's more on that soon. And then after that, we kick off the second year with another week in residence where you start your focus area classes, and then we'll, again, commence with the every other weekend schedule from mid-August to May. So this is a big chunk, right? And so if you want to get a better understanding of what a class weekend looks like, we start classes at 9 o'clock. Each class will run for 3 hours with a small break, about an hour and a half after each. The classes begin on Friday at 9 and end at 5:30 on Friday, and they start at 9 o'clock and end at about 4 on Saturday. You'll have about 4 different classes on each day. We provide lunch and breakfast most days, and there's always opportunities for you to adventure out across the Yale campus to really engage in all of the resources that are available to you. And then there's also opportunities for other personal and professional development. So a lot to take in. We won't go into too much detail here, but this is what your weekend would look like. And so I want to, I think this really speaks to, it's kind of the precursor, right, about what does it mean to prepare, and having some of those logistical details are very important because it helps to get kind of your mindset prepared to really embark on the time that it'll take. So I'm going to kick this off back to Joanne to talk about what it means to have preparedness for a program like this.
Thanks, Maria. Yeah, I think it is important to think about this. When is the last time you studied and studied intensely? Was it back in college? Was it back in grad school? Have you taken a Coursera lately? Have you done an online course? So think about that. And what's your capacity in terms of time? If you are parents, if you are caring for aging parents, if you have a pretty big role at work, you really want to think about what your capacity in terms of time will be and what that means for what your life is like now versus what it might be in the program. Are you up on business stories? Are you reading the Wall Street Journal? Are you glancing through the New York Times on a daily basis? Are you able to come in and really share your thoughts from your own industry, your own experience? And are you planning? Are you thinking about what it means to maximize your experience during the program? While it's great to go through it, we want you to really maximize that opportunity. And what is that going to take on your end? What do you need to learn? What do you want to make sure that you check off on your list of things that you want to come out of the program having learned, experienced, or understood better? And then finally, what for you is the support system. We're going to talk a little bit more about this in a little while when we talk about stakeholders, but who is going to help you out? This is not a solo effort, so it's important to understand what your support system is like. I want to take us a couple, sorry, Nadia.
Oh, no, we're just going to jump in and say, along with some of the time that it takes, a lot of our students will say like they spend about 15 to 20 hours per week outside of classes. So as you're thinking about your time management, you might want to consider that as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joanne.
No, great point. I think that's important to know because this isn't a small thing. It's not for the faint of heart. So having that time in your life to think about that extra hours, so those extra hours spent on Zoom calls and readings is important. Yeah. We're going to quickly go through what we talk about in terms of curriculum. And so without spending a lot of time on this, we want you to at least understand how we teach at the School of Management. And I think it's pretty unique. Yale has a very unique structure, and we do teach from an organizational stakeholder perspective. And that's a little bit different than maybe some other schools. You've heard about the rigor, you've heard about the time. There's a decently steep learning curve here, but it's important to know that this is not a watered down version of our full-time MBA. And in fact, you're taking the exact same core curriculum as those who have quit their job and done school for the last 2 years without also being full-time working professionals. So the Yale Integrated Core Curriculum, I think, is one of the most important differentiators of our program. It's uniquely taught through this sort of organizational stakeholders perspective and lens rather than by function. So you'll see these are the titles of the actual courses represented in this curriculum, and those are the distinct stakeholders in any organization. So if we're going to educate leaders for business and society, you need to be a leader with a broad view and a deep understanding of your workforce, your customer, how innovations or shifts in markets can upend plans that you have, understand how organizations create and change policy at low levels, at the very highest levels of government, how to think like an investor. And these courses are oftentimes tied together. So if we think about one of our specific courses here called Sourcing and Managing Funds, what you'll see the point is here is that some students or some classes are co-taught and cover functions, in this case, accounting or finance, strategy, competition. All of these could be on their own courses. But the point here is how we weave together all of these important themes to be able to teach the class called Sourcing and Managing Funds that is not necessarily just about finance. So this approach we feel is really rigorous for faculty and students, but also better aligned with what you're likely to see in the quote unquote real world. Continuing on with our theme of preparedness, what are your classes beyond the core? So in the second year, like Maria said, you'll certainly talk about areas of focus courses, but in addition, you'll need to kind of move the needle on your own learning in these basic business topics. So while you will have some elective choice in the second year to take on electives that we feel are the most popular over the years in our programs, we'll also kind of make you take classes that we think extend your learning beyond the curve, like business ethics, competitive strategy, and corporate finance. So you're really building on the foundational courses that you took in the first year and adding on, getting us sort of another layer deep, still foundational in a lot of ways from a business perspective, but really expanding on what you've learned in the first year. So for instance, you'll see you're taking managing groups and teams in the first year, and that's really going to allow you to then build and think about classes like designing and leading organizations. It's really quite iterative in that way. So put one other way, if you're a visual learner like myself, you'll notice that there's 75% of your program is really general management, business basics, that foundational stuff we talked about, 25% in your area of focus of healthcare asset management, sustainability, and you'll engage with leadership development throughout. In addition, through your area of focus, faculty directors, you'll have the privilege of listening in to a very carefully curated set of speakers over the years that you're with us to learn from experts in the space and really get that hands-on, just-in-time, real-time learning from folks who are struggling through leadership challenges in the areas that you've deemed most important to you and are kind of following your passion. So again, if you're a visual learner, this might help. You'll see that Global Network Week is in here as well. So moving on, how in the world are you going to pay for this? I have no idea, but we've got some ideas for you. And everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different. And again, this isn't a small thing. You'll really want to think carefully about this. My joke about funding is it doesn't get cheaper when you get in. We have not announced yet the tuition and fees for the class of 2023. You can expect to hear more about that this fall. But generally speaking, we're in the just under $200,000 range, close to some of our peers. Some of them are a little bit over that range at this point, but what do you get for your money? I think that's a good question to ask each program that you might be interested in. Perhaps you have out-of-pocket cash that you can spend at this point. Maybe you've saved up for this for a number of years. So those are sort of two ways we expect you to come in thinking about funding. We also do offer a limited amount of merit and need-based scholarships. Not all MBA programs do that, but that's a great way to think about what funding is available per school that you're looking at. Of course, most of our students are funding their MBA through loans, student loans, private loans, student loans really being government loans, private loans being ones that you will sort of source out on your own, depending on your own creditworthiness. You should ask around. While we don't have a lot of students who are lucky enough to have benefits from their employer to pay for the whole thing, you'd be surprised that some have either professional development funding or tuition reimbursement, or maybe perhaps if you stick around for a few years, they may be willing to continually pay to help you, and of course that helps them. So there's a mutual benefit there. We do offer payment plans. The university will break this down for you in a way that's hopefully manageable. Essentially, you'll get billed 4 times over the program. And for us, again, it's important to find out what is included. For us, a lot is included. For bang for buck, I think we do an okay job here. Tuition, textbooks, study materials, breakfast and lunch, and lodging during your summer residencies, Friday evenings during class weekends. For us, this includes portions of global network programming. We always see an increase from one year to another as costs increase, but you should definitely check with each school you're interested in and find out what that's going to get you. What does the sticker price actually include? And I think lastly, we've talked about sort of your cheerleaders, who's in your corner here. And I think it's really important to think about that first in some ways. When we talk about sort of who's in your corner, the most important thing I think here is making sure that you've got champions in your corner to help you even get to the point of getting prepared to apply. Have you had those formal and informal conversations with those who are going to sign off on this and say, yeah, this is okay? So planting those seeds early, seeking out those who have MBAs perhaps in your organization to find out how they did it and what their suggestions might be, because what you really want to talk about is your reasons for doing this program, your readiness, but your boss is going to want to know how this is going to impact them on a daily basis, especially when you're not there 5 days a week in the office like you usually were. How is this going to impact your family at home? How is this going to impact your relationships? And so it's really important, I think, to be thoughtful about this, but to start at this point, planting those seeds so that when it comes time for you to ask for your employer's approval to be with us, this doesn't come as a surprise. And so to put a finer point on that, we will ask your employer to sign off on your time out of the office should you be moved to the next phase of our application process, which is the interview process. Nobody wants to be surprised getting an email like that. So from a work perspective, that's really important. From a more personal perspective, does this mean that you need to rely a little bit more on the folks in your life to get laundry done, to make sure there's food in your house, to make sure your children are well taken care of? Putting a plan in place as early as now, assuming you might be sitting in a classroom a year from now, we can't stress enough how important a part of the preparedness is in getting those stakeholders on board. All right, Maria, do you want to talk a bit about our process?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll do my best because we have some really great questions in the chat that I want to get to. Our process is quite holistic and very intentional through admissions and also the application. We put in a ton of effort in reading applications. So what would happen is you would submit your application by the deadline. That usually goes into a larger committee, which really spends a lot of time learning more about you. We're very eager to get to know you from many different angles, both personally and professionally. From there, you are then either invited to interview. If you do get an invitation to interview, then it's likely going to be on campus or online in some format where we're able, again, to take another opportunity to really learn about who you are and what you hope the impact of this program will be. After your interview day, we then move into admissions committee again, and we re-review all of the data that we have about you, and we really work hard to make very thoughtful and considerate decisions. After that admissions committee, then you would receive a final decision. So just to share with you a little bit about what the application looks like and some of the timelines, we ask for a resume, a couple of essays. We ask for standardized test scores. That can be the GMAT, the EA, or the executive assessment. We ask for transcripts from all of the degrees conferred. Joanne mentioned earlier your employer approval, so that's embedded within the application. There is a fee, and again, there's the interview by invitation. So I know Joanne wanted to speak a little bit about the application timelines.
Sure. Yeah, and I think everything here is, there's an asterisk next to decision release dates. That asterisk carries through all the way to the left. We are definitely still in the point where we are finalizing all of this information, so this is an early peek at what this upcoming year is likely to look like. We hope to be quote unquote back to normal as much as possible. And so assuming that, this I think sticks for application deadlines for the class of 2023 to start in July of 2021. So being with us today as early as June means you're in a great position to really maximize the next several months to start putting that application together. Our application probably won't open until the end of July, perhaps early August. As you can see, that still gives you plenty of time to get familiar with it prior to our first round deadline. We'll do interviews a couple of weeks after that and hope to release final decisions in December, and so on and so forth for the following 2 rounds. Apply when you're ready. We're happy to take your application when you feel like your application is most ready and best representative of who you are as an applicant.
Yeah, so we're here at a time when we can take questions and answers, and I also know that we are brushing up against the time. I think Joanne and I would both be happy to spend some additional time answering questions. So if you'd like to stay on, please do so. I have a great question about new mothers in the program, and can you tell us a little bit more about that experience for some of our students?
Yeah, it's amazing to me how many babies are born prior to the start of the program, during the program, and I don't know how they do it. I'm so in awe of our students who are parents, particularly those who decide to start their families, and moms who are caring for little ones, caring for older ones as well. The range of parent really extends all the way from newborns to some of our students who are sending their kids off to college. So I think for us, support-wise, we do offer something like a lactation room, which I think is really important to know that small thing can be incredibly important for brand new moms to know that they have an opportunity to use that space privately. I think for everybody else, so many other folks are parents, that you have this community now of built-in people who understand exactly what you're going through and can work with you when we think about issues of childcare or child rearing, how you're going to work with your partner or spouse if you have one. And so I think just the community around you, I think, is incredibly supportive. We understand certainly too for working parents that there are going to be times when parenting takes precedence and takes priority. And that's where the extended classroom comes in. So I think when we talk about support, even something as simple as being able to remote in if your child is ill or has an important school function, remote in that weekend and take the travel stress out of your weekend so that you can truly be present at home. But yeah, I'm actually in awe of the new moms. We've got some I know with 3 kids, and again, those who actually decide to start their families or expand their families in the middle of a program. The support around your learning team, your cohort, and certainly our administration, I think, is quite impressive.
Absolutely. And I think we already have the newest baby for the class of 2022 who was born June 1st. So,
Always fun
yeah,
to see that.
Yeah, we have a couple of other questions here, a little bit about, and I think I can take this one, it's really about the style of testing and exams and projects, like what actually happens, what's the learning that takes place. So most of the courses are provided lecture style, but there's a lot of experiential learning that's ongoing, lots of discussions. We had the rare opportunity to listen to our students participate in full-time classes and also their MBA classes because we were on the back end serving as some support when we moved to online. And what I found quite different from a full-time MBA and our MBA program is that our students, while they are very much students and engaged, they often would ask the professor questions, but they would ask each other. So I think that level of leadership and dynamism, I guess I would say, of the conversations that are happening at that level. We have plenty of students who are involved in healthcare, so you can imagine what the business ethics class was discussing during these very critical times. So that's kind of what's happening in the classroom. What's happening outside of the classroom is that you will have tests, you will have projects, you'll have papers to do, you'll have problem sets, so be prepared for that. You'll have PowerPoints and Excel spreadsheets to complete. There's a number of different tools that we use, but expect that, you know, as you are learning and as you're grouped with a learning team, you'll be able to work together to really put together some of this work. So that's loosely, and I know that I mentioned about 15 to 20 hours of time anticipated outside, and Joanne was right on it when she said about the Zoom calls and getting together with your team, because oftentimes you'll be working in different time zones as well.
Maddie, I've got a couple here that I think might be quick, sort of quick and dirty questions. If somebody already has an MBA, are they still considered for the program? The short answer to that is no. We don't consider those who already have an MBA. The programs are quite similar in content, and it's not a great learning opportunity in that case. Somebody's asking about applying for May of 2022. We only start in July, so if you're thinking about 2022, the earliest you can apply is the fall of 2021. So those are a couple quick ones. Minimum of 5 years of work experience. We don't allow students with masters and less than that to apply. You do still have to have that 5-year work experience. Couple things on the EA. We do accept the EA. We certainly encourage you to look into the EA. On average, a 150 has been shown in our general industry in EMBA to be indicative of academic success in the classroom. So I would say shoot for that with a 10 on each subsection. That's been, in our limited experience with the EA over the last 3 years, shown to be most predictive of opportunities to be successful in the classroom. There are 2 essays. We're not going to talk too much about that. We invite you to come to our applications tips webinar in August. And we're still working on the essays for this coming year, but you'll want to think deeply about your intention for the program, your goals for the program, and truly what's important to you. BMAT, GRE, EA is always required. So there are no waivers for that. There is no opportunity to skip through that regardless of what level of education you may have reached up to this point. And a preferred list of lenders is not available. We'll actually provide that, not necessarily a preferred list, but a full list of lenders. For financial aid, when you're admitted to the program, you'll get access to a wide range of financial aid information. There might be some information on our external website right now that you can peruse through, but I don't think we actually have preferred lenders because that is illegal. We're not allowed to show preference for one lender over another, but there are definitely some great information on our website on financial aid and more to come if you're admitted to the program. Maria, do you want to wrap us up here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to, share that I would take an opportunity to follow up on some next steps. Joanne has highlighted a few that are really important. So we'll have some upcoming webinars that are going to be more specific around applications. They'll go a bit deeper into the curriculum and faculty. And so I would take the opportunity to join us there. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, follow us on SOM, check out our website for a ton of information. We have something that is a wonderful process, which is a pre-assessment. So we'll review your resume and provide some high-level feedback regarding whether or not you would meet the requirements, and then we would engage you further if you want to. I know that there are a number of questions that haven't been answered through the chat, we are happy to connect with you. So you can email us at emba.admissions@yale.edu, and we would be happy to get back with you to answer those specific questions. We know that this is a very thought-provoking and can be somewhat an overwhelming process, but we hope that it's not, and we hope that part of having this discussion is really helpful for you in making some of these decisions. Joanne, any final advice as we wrap up here?
Yeah, stick with us. Don't go anywhere. There's more information to come. We are going to be hosting webinars related to our alumni. If you are interested in the healthcare area focus, the Posen Commonwealth Fund Fellowship for Healthcare Practitioners and Minority Health Leadership is coming up. We're going to do some additional webinars that dig a little bit deeper into our admissions process. So for me, I hope this was a really great way to start your EMBA journey, and specifically with us here at Yale SOM. But yeah, there's definitely a lot more content to come, obviously virtually at this point. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll be able to host visitors quite yet, and like we normally would. We won't be able to travel to your cities as we normally would. So we're hopeful that the global pandemic starts to come to a quick end and we can meet you in person. We look forward to that, and certainly we'll keep you posted on any opportunity that might be available as things hopefully start to improve around the globe.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Joanne.
Thank you.
A bit of a shout out to Liz Lewis, who's on the line. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Joanne. And thanks to all of you for joining us. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Stay in touch. Good luck.